Cuénteme de la visita ahora que está en la parte final de ella. ¿Cómo fue?
So it's an exciting moment. I mean, despite the rhetoric that we're seeing on the issue of migration, there actually are real opportunities here. And we see a very interested and engaged private sector. We see a demand for a sustainable workforce. And we know that there are now migrants who are in Mexico who intend to remain in Mexico. So it's an opportunity to now put together these different parts and maybe create a solution that will work for more people.
Estamos en un momento especialmente difícil del mundo en general, pero ¿cómo entender la posibilidad que se abre para que las personas que están desplazadas, para que las personas que se encuentran en tránsito puedan tener un espacio de trabajo, de educación, para que puedan tener una vida razonablemente estable? ¿Cómo lograrlo? ¿Cómo en la práctica lograrlo en países como México?
So when I last met with you, we were seeing record numbers of people transit through Mexico on their way to the US-Mexico border. At this moment in time, the ability for people to enter the United States has basically fallen off almost completely. The result is we're seeing now a sea change in the way that people are moving. More and more people are moving south. But for those people who can't go home, either because it's not safe or there's no opportunity, they're looking at Mexico for jobs and stability. And we have, at the same time, here in the country, a surplus of job opportunities and not enough labor. So the challenge is really, how do we connect people who are here, who want to stay, who want to work, with the employers who are looking for that workforce? Now, none of that is easy, and there's not really yet at scale the kind of success we want to see. But the fact that people now don't have the same incentive to go north to the United States actually enables Mexico and Mexican businesses to benefit.
Tenemos hoy un tiempo especialmente difícil con un gobierno como el de los Estados Unidos. Donald Trump ha instrumentado políticas muy agresivas. Todos lo sabemos, hay deportaciones, hay una crisis muy fuerte cuando vemos lo que está ocurriendo en Estados Unidos, cuando vemos este tipo de políticas. ¿Cuál es su diagnóstico?
So every government has the right to set its own migration policies. Every government has the right to set its own foreign assistance policies. And there's little that we do directly with governments when they set those policies. Our focus is really on the people themselves, the migrants, people who are often displaced from their countries, sometimes because of lack of opportunities, sometimes because of community violence, sometimes because of political persecution. And our job is to figure out how can we address the needs of those people. So while the United States is aggressively enforcing its immigration laws, aggressively enforcing its border, it doesn't actually address the reasons why people are moving. So where we can come in is work with communities as much as possible, stabilize them, help them find safety, help them find protection. It may be somewhere else in their own home country. It may be in a neighboring country. But this is a time where the countries in the Americas can actually build something that is specific to the Americas and is not just looking to its neighbor to the north. So from where I sit, while it's certainly challenging, these moments of challenge create real opportunity that wouldn't exist when every person on the move was looking to head into the United States.
Esto que resolvió la Corte recientemente en Estados Unidos no resuelve el fondo, pero es una decisión que ha sido muy controvertida. ¿Qué opinión le merece, Amy?
So without weighing in on the judicial procedures in any one country, what we do know is that most countries benefit when migrants are well integrated into their workforce, well integrated into their communities. And as a matter of law enforcement and as a matter of security, you want migrants to be able to come forward, especially to report crime, especially to report exploitation or abuse of the labor system. At this moment, what we're hearing from migrants is that they are afraid to come forward, they're afraid to report, they're afraid to show up to work. Now, again, every country has the right to decide how they want to manage it. But if I look globally around the world, what we see is, especially as demographics change around the world, and there are societies where you just see a lot of aging populations, they need migrants. And we predict that The countries that will benefit in the long term will be those countries that have competitive policies to attract the best talent into their country to work.
Le pregunto cómo le fue con el gobierno mexicano porque se reunió con la Secretaría de Gobernación, se reunió con la Cancillería. Ustedes han empujado porque estas barreras administrativas, barreras legales para que las personas puedan integrarse a la sociedad. ¿Qué tal le fue? ¿Cree que se logre algo en esta materia?
Yeah, I think it will. And I hear strong interest from the government in trying to figure it out for a couple of reasons. Number one, the president has a very ambitious strategy. Her plan Mexico for 2030 actually will lead to the creation of at least 1.6 million more jobs. Well, you need a workforce who can take those jobs if we want to realize the economic benefits of that investment. So there is already a demand for a more sustainable workforce. That's on top of the workforce that companies now need, and companies are making that case to the government. So the government is very interested in figuring out how to make this work. I think the major concerns are showing that migrants who are given a job in Mexico stay and work in Mexico, and they're not using it as a pathway to the United States. That's the beauty, if you will, of this moment. It's almost a perverse word to use, but the fact that the American-Mexican border is not open for business actually increases the likelihood that migrants will stay here if they're still here in Mexico. So figuring out how to do that, figuring out if we can start small, measure it, demonstrate its impact, demonstrate that it works for Mexican businesses and Mexican nationals is something that is very much of interest to the ministers that we spoke to.
Amy, se acaba el tiempo del programa y hay un tema que es obligado, el cambio climático. El cambio climático, que tiene muchísimas repercusiones de todo tipo, tiene un alto impacto también en el desplazamiento de poblaciones enteras. ¿Cómo está el fenómeno migratorio agudizado por el cambio climático?
It is the number one factor that is displacing people today, more so than conflict, more so than war. More people are leaving home because of the impacts of a changing climate. And that's particularly true when we're talking about people who already have very low resilience. They don't have an insurance company who can step in and rebuild a house that's been destroyed. They don't have an education they can fall back on and pivot to a new job opportunity when their livelihood has been destroyed. This issue, connecting the dots between how drought, storms, flooding, fire are impacting people and when and how they move is absolutely critical. For our organization, we are making investments in using data from all over the world and then projecting and forecasting which communities are most at risk. Because what we see is if we can invest in a more resilient structure, for example, in the Philippines, they're hit by typhoons all the time. We found that with a $4,000 house that is built to withstand a storm, fewer people are displaced. So it's using the data to understand what is coming and how it will impact vulnerable communities, building interventions before millions of people are displaced. And that work is absolutely critical. It will save a lot of money if we do it well. It will save a lot of lives.